Eric, my next question would be, in Mike's situation, he almost, in a way, like, was rewarded for going on SSDI because it made him better off financially. In any ways, when you got off of SSI, was there any punishment, to getting to joining the workforce? Are you missing out on anything, or is it just the overall better decision to be in the workforce?
Well, I love the way you asked that question. You put two parts to it. And I will say it was an all-round better decision to join the workforce. Yeah, okay. It was all around. Now, of course, and it's also, some of these things are subjective. Like I had Medicaid, which I didn't have I didn't no co-pays, no premiums, nothing like that. Granted, there was restricted. It was restricted on kind of like which providers would provide care to someone on Medicaid. However, it was that was like the biggest thing that I lost, I guess, sort of that saved expense. I wasn't really missing the $700 a month that I stopped getting because I was making far more than that in the workforce. And, $700 a month just wasn't, you can't live.
That's not livable for anyone, really.
I know people whose groceries are $700 a month, let alone rent and utilities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was definitely not a thing that I missed. And I would say the biggest benefit, especially because of where I am now in my career and what I'm establishing in my career now, these years later, is that the biggest benefit is not being enrolled in a program, SSI, that very aggressively restricts the assets that I'm allowed to carry, that I'm allowed to have financially.
Can you elaborate on that?
So, happy to.
So like when you're on SSI, what you're talking about with assets would be like the amount of money in your bank account, stocks and things like that. Yeah, so what you're saying is that you're limited. If you have a certain amount of assets in your name, your SSI will be revoked, which kind of basically, to use that word I used earlier, would punish you if you were on SSI and wanted to invest and have all these, Yeah.
So, I'm happy to elaborate on that. So when I was on SSI, I got onto SSI in late 2010, and then we learned that I can only have if you're on SSI as an individual, you can only have $2,000 in countable assets to your name.
So that's even like your savings account.
Everything. Checking account, savings account.
So all combined. So if you had, 1,000 in your checking, 1,000 in your savings, you already hit the mark.
You can't have it. Yeah, it's so forget about having a stock portfolio. Forget about a high yield savings account. Forget about that stuff. They go up and down.
So basically, does that mean that the government perceives that if you have over $2,000 to your name, then you're wealthy enough to where you don't need the requirement of SSI?
Maybe, I don't want to presume to get into,
because what would be I'm just trying to think about what the logic is of that, because that seems very illogical. Why are they giving you this? Like why, 2,000 is not that much.
It's illogical. It's illogical. It's repressive, for lack of a better word. It keeps people from legitimately getting ahead of their situation in life. Say someone goes on to SSI, and again, I don't want to speak for anybody other than myself, but say someone goes on SSI and they intend to get off of it and they want to like make something of themselves financially, and they take a portion of their $700 or $600 and maybe invest it in some sort of investment account. Well, if that grows over the $2,000 limit, you're going to get either docked for a period of time, or they're just going to revoke you altogether. And it just kind of keeps you where you're at. And
it seems like
it's it's so restrictive and repressive in that, if repressive is even a good word for it in that regard, because for people like me, like I can't relate to a lot of people that I see who are on that program, because it was never ever in my intention to stay on it. It was just a tool.
Yeah.
But if if that's like their long-term game, if that works for them, and I'm not judging anybody if that program works for them. If it works for them, that's beautiful. Yeah. But I don't understand how this is supposed to be, in the eyes of the federal government, a long-term viable solution to help people like us who have RP or other physical disabilities better their lives. I don't understand how it's, like I said, that it's not in my opinion, a viable long-term solution.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think, this brings up to a new thing. So technically, right, going off of is what's enough money to live off of and all that. So it seems like even with both SSI and SSDI, you would need some sort of supplemental help, whether it be having a house to live in already versus, because you're not going to be able to get your own place if you're living off of, so like Mike, for example, you have a wife, and so it's like that supplemental income, so it's like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is even with SSI or with SSDI giving you more money and more benefits, it's still not quite enough if you're truly on your own.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't have the asset restriction. I mean, like he does, like, cause I've never had to worry about like our house. And nothing. We have lots of assets. So, I mean,
you do.
Obviously my benefit. Well, my benefits don't get changed at all. So, I mean, I couldn't imagine having, like that barrier that would that would really
it's
suck.
I just find it strange because it's like how Eric said, it kind of keeps you where you're at. It's like, all right,
it's like we don't want you on
we don't want you on it, but don't but don't get wealthy enough to where you get off of it.